Anyway, if you don't want to, I'm not encouraging you, I'm just saying, if you want to, you certainly can record it. So, all right. Now, what's that thing at the bottom of the screen? You notice the ventricle seems to be tethered, and the name of that thing is called a frenulum. And humans don't have that, but it's a useful thing for us. Right now, you can see that it's attached to the diaphragm, but what we're going to do is attach the string that we've talked about to that location. We're going to use these little alligator clips. These are called alligator clips because it looks like an alligator. Okay. Anyway, we're going to put this one up here for no good reason. Anywhere up here is good. I'm talking about that right there. But you don't have to guess, because when I put the cursor there, right there on that peak, come on, you can see that that point matches that point. So what is that thing? P wave. How do we know it's the P wave? Because it's right before the atrial contraction. So how do we find the QRS? Well, this right here is the beginning of the QRS, isn't it? Isn't that the beginning of the QRS? Mm-hmm. And that's right there. So that's got to be the QRS. And that makes this a no-brainer. What is that? T wave. Again, the P causes the atrial to contract. The QRS causes the ventricle to contract. The T doesn't cause anything. It's just repolarization. Now, just for fun, we could do this. That is, you can do this later today with your own ECG, but you can take and highlight that, and then you can zoom, which makes it easier to appreciate. But that couldn't be much better. So, if you repeat, that's what? P. QRS, and way out here is the T. So that's as good as it gets. Opposed to this rate. Slow it down. So this is nothing but cold saline, cold ringers. Wait a minute, that's not cold, that's hot. Cold is in the refrigerator. Squirt this on the heart. And specifically, we're going to target the atria. Why am I squirting it in the direction of the atria? Well, that's the pacemaker. So, okay. Let's see. The rate now is saying 28 for what it's worth. Here we go. I don't know if it's slowing it down or not. Not showing any difference. The simple truth is this was sitting out in the room instead of the refrigerator where it was supposed to be. And in fact, it's coming down. The reason this is showing 60 is because this is counting that T wave as an R wave. So it's actually pretending or thinking that those are all R waves. So the actual rate is probably half of that, which is 31. But you don't need this. I mean, you can tell visually that that was faster. So anterior neck. And what's that structure which is in plain sight now?
Trachea.
It's the trachea. And then alongside the trachea, I'm looking for the carotid artery. I don't see it yet. It's under a lot of muscles. The muscles that we're dealing with here are the sternohyoid, the sternothyroid, the same ones in the human. So in truth, I don't see that vessel yet. Oh, but there it is. Do you see that white thing there? Mm-hmm. I do.
Yeah.
See that? I can't point to it, I don't have a third hand. But there's a white thing next to a red thing. The red thing is the carotid artery. The white thing is the vagus nerve. You might even be able to see blood pulse in that artery, but I'm kind of off
Yeah, you can.
center there. So that's the vagus nerve, which is going down the neck and reaching the heart as we suggested. Now I can do a better job, I suppose, of exposing that. So let's at least try, because right now the nerve is a bit deep. And so I'll just try to cut down. This is going to be the left vagus. Try not to injure that nerve. And tugging on it could do so. Worse yet would be cutting the carotid. Why would that be bad?
Blood everywhere.
Blood everywhere. And naturally, negative venous return and game over. So, oh, there's a good shot of it. I don't know if you're seeing this. I trust that you're seeing most of it. There's that artery and the nerve pretty much in plain sight now. That's as good a picture as I've ever seen of that thing. So if I can't stimulate that, I need better glasses. But anyway, here we go. This is a probe, and you can see it's got two little forks on it. So when I touch this, it will stimulate whatever it comes into contact with. And I'm going to start arbitrarily at 4 volts. You don't have to remember any of this. What's important is what's going to happen. And just to remind you, the vagus nerve is what kind of nerve?
Parasympathetic.
Using what neurotransmitter?
Acetylcholine.
Having what effect on what receptors?
Cholinergic receptors.
All right, and hyperpolarizing. Okay. So what should happen to that heart rate?
It should slow down.
Slow down, maybe even stop. Now, you don't need to see me stimulate the vagus nerve because it's not really where the action is. So let's go back here, because what's going to happen and what you want to appreciate is the change in heart rate. Now, incidentally, that could have been vagus stimulation. See that big gap in there? Why? Because I was probing around there and stretching and pulling. Who knows? But now we're going to do it for real. And you'll know when I stimulate the vagus nerve for 2 reasons. One, I'll say so, but the other will be this will go crazy. What is this? ECG. Are these voltages going to reach those electrodes? And will they disturb or upset those? Yeah, so you'll see this go crazy, and that will be proof that we're stimulating the vagus. And as long as the ECG is disturbed like that, you know I'm still stimulating. So, all right, here I go. I'm going to try to relocate that nerve. It kind of slipped out of sight again. There it is in plain sight. So here we go. 1, 2, and 3. I'd say that's pretty impressive. Because what?
Slowed down. I
Stopped
it.
immediately.
Asystole.
Do you see any atrial contraction? Nope. Any ventricular contraction? Nope. What's the word for that?
Asystole.
You see any P waves, QRSs, anything at all?
No.
Asystole across the board. Am I still stimulating? Yes. Now I'm going to stop stimulating right now. Now why doesn't the heart come right back?
Needs to hydrolyze the
It takes time to break down the
Acetylcholine.
acetylcholine. Did it come back?
yes.
That's awesome. You know, if he had a back I could pat, I'd be patting his back and say, turtle. Or maybe I'll give him a high five.
Oh goodness.
I'm sorry, it's sick humor. But I can't help but being excited about that, because it's just as we promised. What's next? Stop and look at this. What's this event down here on the magenta? T wave. And so that means by this point, what has the ventricle successfully finished?
Repolarization.
So anytime after here, we could get a contraction. Anytime before that, forget it. because it hasn't yet finished repolarizing. But certainly if we stimulate it there or beyond, we would see a contraction. And that would be an early contraction. What's the name for an early contraction?
Extrasystole,
Also known as
PVC.
a PVC. All right, so let's do this. Now this is going to take a little coordination, which I'm not famous for. But I'm going to touch the ventricle at the right time. And I need your help. I want to stimulate it right there. So when we get to that point, I want you to say, go. Actually, don't. Say go right here. And by the time I hear you and respond, it'll be over there. Okay? So I'm relying on you. Here comes the electrode. I'm not ready yet. You must be able to see the electrode. I'm trying to get in a position that won't disturb your photo or your view, I should say. All right, I'm sort of within striking distance. Do you see that electrode?
Yes.
All right. So I'm ready. You gotta be louder than that.
Go. Oh, go.
Go.
Okay. One designated person. And say it loud and say it proud.
Camera up.
Go. Too early.
Too slow.
Yeah, I don't know. Didn't. Actually, I don't know what this was, but that's one. I think that was just a spontaneous one, but hey, I'll go with that. Maybe I touched it by accident there, I don't recall. But where is that? Let's find it, because that's a perfectly good one. Come on. Am I going backwards?
Yeah, too far.
Am I going backwards?
Yeah.
All right, so I need to go this direction. Oh, there it is. So this is what, that was actually not good, but that was good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, that might have been a spot. Is that early?
Yeah.
Because it should have happened where? So is that a PVC?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a compensatory pause?
Yeah.
So I don't remember what actually happened there because I wasn't thinking or focusing. We could try one more time, but that's as good as it gets. But let's try one more time. So here we go, getting into position. Go. Oh,
He's not in position.
oh, that was good.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's this?
Extrasystole,
Extrasystole. What's this gap?
compensatory pause.
Why does that happen?
Still in none.
Why does the ventricle contract as it otherwise would? It's not ready. What do I mean it's not ready?
Hasn't repolarized.
Hasn't repolarized. Why not? Because it hasn't finished depolarizing. So anyway, that's a PVC. All right, good enough. We're on a roll. So this is a bottle of acetylcholine. It's in a dropper bottle. And so obviously I can just what? Drop it on there. This will just wash off the heart and probably won't have any effect unless it actually soaks into the muscle. So the chances of this working are kind of slim, but I always start with this. And we're going to drip it onto the atria. Why onto the atria?
Pacemaker.
That's where the pacemaker is. Now if this doesn't work, then we'll inject it. That is, we'll put a needle in there. But let's just try this first. Heart rate is 27. And so here we go. This is acetylcholine, take one. So certainly you saw that wash off and wash across the atria. And it's not going to happen, if it's going to happen at all, very soon or quickly, because it's got to soak into the muscle. So I know you're not impressed, I'm not either. Didn't seem to work. So let's just give it another shot. I'm wanting to see it slow, but it's not, so okay.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah.
Oh, now it is. Oh, now it certainly is. All right, so I guess just a thread of more acetylcholine was enough for it. All right, so I'm convinced that that's probably a real deal, meaning the acetylcholine effect. And the time lapse is not unusual because it's got to penetrate. And I think we can say that it has worked, and now we're seeing the aftermath. Is it recovering, you'd say?
Yeah.
And that's because of an enzyme that's present called acetylcholine
Esterase.
which will hydrolyze that. Now we could do epinephrine. I think I'm going to save that for when we really need it. So right now, I'm just going to wait for this to recover. And to help, I can do two things. First, I'm going to suck out anything back here. Wasn't much. And also going to put some warm ringers on there, which will do two things. It'll warm the heart. It'll also rinse off perhaps some of the acetylcholine. So presumably that will restore things. And all right, not so much. But it's pretty decent. And in fact, what matters at this point is that we have a 1-to-1 ratio of atria to ventricles. What does that mean? Every time you have an atrial contraction, it's followed by a what?
Ventricular.
So we call that 1-to-1, 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 1-to-1. So is there good communication then between the atria and the ventricles?
Yeah.
Clearly we have no heart block. Now I'm going to take a piece of string. Looks like that. Looks like a rope. But actually it's just a piece of ordinary string. And we're going to tie it, as we predicted, between the atria and the ventricles. This is not designed to block blood flow. It's designed to block the flow of electrical signals from the atria to the ventricle. And we're going to produce, hopefully, what?
AV block.
AV block. Antelope.
Atrioventricular block.
Ventricular block. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. All right, let's do it. This is hard. We have so many strings to dodge here. So it may take a minute to get this into circulation, ischemia,
Arteriosclerosis.
arterial
Atherosclerosis.
Atherosclerosis. Now there's a bunch of obstructions back here, so I've got to try to clear the way. For this string. And can this be reversible? That is, if I take the string off, will the heart recover? We hope. But before we worry about that, let's see if we can even get it to work at all. Now we've got a clear shot at it. In human terms, how is an AV block corrected or treated?
Pacemaker.
Pacemaker. And you probably know somebody with a pacemaker. Pacemakers don't cure the AV block. It's still there. It just compensates, or basically forces the ventricle to contract in synchrony with the atrium. All right, so I know this is taking a lot of time. Just to be sure that we haven't yet disturbed anything. Is it still 1-to-1?
Yes.
What does that mean, 1-to-1?
One atrial contraction for one ventricular
Okay.
contraction.
So that string is not doing anything at this point. because it's simply not tight enough. So let's tighten it up. That's pretty tight. Now, you might say that's a heart block. But I'm not convinced, because in a heart block, the P waves, that is the atria, should be regular. And now they are becoming regular, again. But it's still 1 to 1. What do I mean? 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So definitely there's been a disturbance here, but notice how it's now perfectly fine, at least right now. So, at this moment, is there a heart block? No. Now, there's no heart block, but one thing you can see, look at the right atrium over there. That's not able to empty, is it? So it's getting huge. And that's simply because it can't pump any blood into the ventricle. And so you might say, well, wow, it could explode. Well, it might, but I doubt it. Anyway, we don't have a heart block. As horrible looking as this is, it's still communicating fine. Do we have 1-to-1 connectivity? Yeah. So, what do we have to do?
Make it tighter.
We have to tighten this more. So here we go. About as tight as I can go without breaking it in half. And there we got it. It's a 3rd degree heart block. Because we have atria but no what?
Ventricular.
And so these are what?
P waves.
P waves with no
QRS.
QRS. So this is not a 1st degree heart block, this is not a 2nd degree heart block, it's a 3rd degree heart block, which means the ventricle is not communicating, that is not receiving anything from the atria. So obviously we could watch this, but it's only going to be torture, meaning it's not going to get better. And we want it to get better. So let's rescue this by cutting the string. And that's going to be a trick, because that string
It's tight.
is very tight, and I could easily cut the aorta here. So this is going to be lucky if I can get that cut. I should maybe try a scalpel. That's even riskier. Although this pair of scissors is about as bad as they come. Here, I'll bring in some heavy equipment. Cutting something. I think it's string. Cutting the aorta would be pretty disastrous. Come on. I could use my teeth better. I think it's coming loose. Not very impressive scissors. Let's try another set. There we go. Sigh of relief. And amazingly, there's no bleeding. And you can see that that constriction seems to be bulging out again. Look at the ventricle, how red it is. Why is that?
It's filling up now.
It's filling up, but it's not pumping. So now it's got the same problem that the atria had. We got a lot of EDV here. So that's disturbing. You might say those are the ventricles, but that isn't ventricle. That's just the atria bumping the ventricle. You can tell with your own eyes that the ventricle is not contracting.
And it's happening at the exact same time as the
Good point. And naturally, what's missing down here?
QRS.
Yeah. So we'll know. Now, what's the treatment for an AV block in humans?
Pacemaker.
Pacemaker. Do I happen to have a pacemaker?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, here we go. I'm just going to touch this probe and watch closely now. Did that cause the ventricle to contract?
Yes.
Yes. But only one time. So let's do it again. Is this how a pacemaker works?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think you're supposed to yell clear.
Oh, that's a defibrillator. But yeah, I can yell clear if you want. Now, you're probably thinking, well, why not do epinephrine? Well, so am I. I'm thinking the same thing. Why not do epinephrine?
Yeah.
Where do you want to put this epinephrine?
On the atrium.
Ready.
Not on the atria. Why not?
Oh, because it was
The
a block.
atria's doing fine. The ventricle's the problem.
So you want it on the AV node?
So, anyway, let's try a little epinephrine. Couldn't hurt. Again, most of this epinephrine is just going to wash off. And I'd be inclined to use a needle that is straight into the heart, which of course is Pulp Fiction, isn't it? Which is really fiction, as a matter of fact, but okay. All right, I'm going to go get a needle. Heart block. So this is epinephrine, and we'll put it right into the ventricle. Now, this is a perfect time to do it, incidentally, because if you put epinephrine into a ventricle that's contracting, guess what's going to happen?
The ventricle will go more than the atrium.
Well, no. Basically, that epinephrine is going to leave the heart, right? In which case, it didn't have any time to work. This is a perfect time to do it because the ventricle is not contracting. So the epinephrine is going to stay there and therefore have some time to work, theoretically. All right, so here we go. Epinephrine right into the ventricle. And you'll notice when I put that needle in, that stimulated the heart itself. And notice it caused QRSs. Do you see the QRSs and Ts? But as good as that was, it hasn't made any difference yet. Let's try a little warm ringers. That always helps. Not always, but good for a shot. Whoa, that really set off the atrium. In fact, this is called atrial
Fibrillation.
fibrillation. So hey, you got this at no extra cost today. This is called AFib. You've seen about it, you've read about it, you've heard about it on TV, AFib. And AFib, well, there it is. I hope you get this because I've never seen this before in a turtle.
I just got an orgasm.
Now, when AFib happens, it's not necessarily deadly as long as the ventricle's contracting. Is the ventricle contracting here? No. So this is bad news. And in fact, epinephrine is known for causing fibrillation. So in short, I OD'd this guy. So sorry. But you know, it was worth it.
Yep.
To me.
Absolutely.
Because you get to see what atrial fibrillation really looks like. Now, can the ventricle do that too?
Yeah.
When the ventricle does that, that's called ventricular fibrillation, and that's very definitely game over. And that's what we have down there by Subway. We have a defibrillator. Maybe we should go get it. No, I'm just joking. Oh, but now the AFib's gone. I was just about to say that it probably wouldn't last long. So that's pretty cool. AFib is come and gone. Now, back to my story. If you have AFib and your ventricle's
Oh,
okay.
no, we have a ventricle.
Oh, did we? Oh, now fib's back.
No, but we get a ventricle fibrillation.
We had some ventricular fibrillation?
Yeah.
I
Right
missed
there.
it.
Looks right there.
It's right there.
Yeah.
The purple.
Well,
There it goes again.
okay, there we go. Now that was decent. Those are good contractions, good QRSs and Ps. All right. What I'm trying to do here is just maybe rinse off and at the same time maybe stimulate some recovery, although you can see it's not been successful yet. All right, that was good. Good kick in the pants there. Now, hey, keep it up. Boom. Well, good atria, but still no ventricle. So for the moment, we got rid of the AFib, and there's a good ventricular contraction. We just need more. So you could say we're recovering from heart block, or we might at least hope so. But actually, this is not encouraging because those are contracting pretty much at the same time. So, is the atria communicating with the ventricle? Obviously not. And we're kind of out of options here. I certainly don't want to try any more epinephrine. So we could try, and certainly we have. We're going to stimulate the heart again. Here we go. One, whoops, just a threat I didn't touch. Go. Go. So we know the heart is certainly capable of contracting. We can see that. But for whatever reason, the signal is not reaching the heart. And for a while, we had AFib going, which made that even less likely. Now that's pretty good, but I don't know if that was in synchrony or not.
Looks pretty crazy.
Are we hopeful or something's happening?
It's like
here?
a lot.
I'm giving it kind of a power wash there, if you notice. Hopefully to revive that site. You can see the injury that that string left behind. Whoa. Now, if this were to happen in a human, this person would be unconscious. And of course, 911 would have been called. And hopefully CPR would have been started by somebody. But we're not out of the woods yet, as you know, as you can say. And so all I'll do is nick the aorta, which is kind of out of the picture here. So I'm gonna try to bring that into the picture. So the aorta is that first vessel at 12 o'clock. The one at 1 o'clock is the pulmonary artery. And it's already got an aneurysm on it. See that little blister there? So let's just do this. Let's just nick it. With scissors here. Now, you don't see anything yet because the ventricle hasn't contracted, but stand back. Is the,
Oh,
did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see it all spurt out of that hole? It's not as dramatic as I'd hoped. Because I've seen this thing squirt up and hit me in the face. Not that I want that.
That's the you'd hoped.
That's a major cut there, I think. But we're not gonna see anything
might
in,
have blood.
what did I cut?
Pulmonary.
Pulmonary.
artery.
Did I? Anyway, now we're not gonna see,
Oh,
yeah. That I slashed through the whole pulmonary artery there. And it's not gonna be dramatic because there's no blood coming back to the heart.
mhm.
You see, the ventricle's not even filling anymore because of such low venous return, except that there's no blood, but that's irrelevant.
Wow.
So, what a testimony to the staying power of the turtle. Now, in the interest of time, we gotta move, we're gonna take this heart out. Yep. We said we would, and so we will.
Maybe. CLS.
There's a huge clot back here, you see this?
Oh, wow.
It's from the atria.
Which is okay, because at least it slowed the loss of blood, but at this point, we have such low venous return because of all this hemorrhage that we really don't see what we saw at the beginning. Okay, so I've got the heart literally out. So now we have the heart basically floating there, but let's bring it down into camera view. And it's a little stunned, in other words, it's arrested apparently, but I'm not gonna give up hope. You can see the atria, that's where the hook is, and the ventricle as well. Let's give it a little, well, that was enough, but let's rinse it off a bit. Wow, good strong atria. Atria, go. Ventricle, go. Ooh, that's good. Good timing. Atria. Atria. Alright. Now the ECG is crazy because the electrodes are off, so you don't need to dwell on that. But let's reset this just because it's been displaced. But it looks like 2 to 1 there.